Face front, true believers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
10 years ago, Marvel's Daredevil stood above the rest and showed us the quality storytelling other shows were blind to. Now, with its official return, the burden falls to us to discern the truth by asking the question, will the new show measure up to the original? Join us as we start Discerning Daredevil Born Again. That's right, and we are so back, baby. It took 6 episodes, but Matt Murdock is officially back in the costume. We are talking season 1 of Born Again, episode 6, Excessive Force. Yeah. So, Dragon, I think 5 and 6 were both kind of like a great 1-2 punch. 5 was kind of like a really, really good. It's definitely a bottle episode, but honestly, the structure of 5 reminded me more of like a one-shot comic book issue. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, like this is kind of a little bit in between the major arcs, but we're going to set this up to kind of like build out the world more. And that episode, I honestly, Dragon, I think episode 5 might be my favorite of the season so far. This is very good too. I think we're kind of as the show keeps going, I think we're kind of shedding the weight of the reshoots a little bit. Hopefully, we're a little bit more back on track. This was obviously a very satisfying return to form that we've been teasing throughout the first half of the series. And I'm very excited to see where we go from here. What do you think of the episode, Dragon?
Yeah, so I thought it was very very refreshing that we got back on track with the Fisk anti-vigilante platform that got him elected mayor. I love how we hit the story parallels between Kingpin and Daredevil. I think they're very strong here. They're kind of doing the thing I was hoping we were going to do that we were kind of promised in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Which hopefully tees up a more promising back half of the season than we've kind of had. Very disjointed in the first half, but this is very promising. Again, I think this week, oddly, our weeks with 2 have been kind of the strongest that we've gotten ultimately. I mean, I think we had a strong
I still
premiere.
think the first episode was pretty shaky, honestly.
You and I are just going to disagree.
Some cool
that,
stuff
right?
went down, but like just as far as like the editing job goes, yeah.
I'm just saying the editing is just thing. I think it's more across the series as a whole than is just to be isolated in one episode.
I'm saying that it was definitely more noticeable in episode 1 than it was in either of these 2 episodes.
Well, it's because all the eyes were on episode 1, though.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyways.
Okay. Anyway, the point being, this is promising and getting us. The biggest problem we've had in the episodes, before this week, were we were really losing the plot and like all the interesting stuff we were kind of like told about in episode 1 that we were going to get. And we just kind of have been just kind of doing other things like why do we care about Red Hook?
Right.
That's just been kind of the thing here. Like, why does Fisk care about Red Hook? Why do we care about being mayor at this point? Like, what is things have been a little all over the place, and this was just we're starting to do stuff with Muse, and I don't know, it was I think it's what the show needed. Plus, they were desperate to put him back in the suit, so there's like no way we weren't going to have 2 episodes this week. If the second one, like I kind of called this, there was going to be one more episode before we put him in that suit.
You totally did call it, yeah.
Yep. And here we are. All right.
Alrighty. So, let's kick things off with the plot.
All right. So here's the episode in a nutshell. All right. So Mayor Fisk learns of a serial killer, graffiti artist named Muse. He assembles an anti-vigilante task force to stop him by any means necessary, including the use of excessive force. Angela Del Toro seeks Matt's help to stop Muse, like White Tiger tried to do before his murder, which ultimately leads to Matt suiting up as the Kingpin's fundraising attempts motivate him to blow off some steam by beating on Adam. Daredevil, by the end of the episode, Daredevil saves. Daredevil is back, saves Angela while Muse gets away, and that's the episode.
All right. Okay, so let's get started with some arc, starting, of course, with the man, the myth, the legend. Hold on, wait for it.
I'm blind Matt Murdock. I'm blind Matt Murdock. I'm blind Matt Murdock.
Okay.
All right, so let's break down Matt.
Yeah, so the opening of this episode, he's I kind of hinted at this last episode because we couldn't really talk about this episode then. So he was kind of riding high. He kind of found like a little loophole in kind of his promise to Foggy there, but he we got the Catholic guilt, the inner turmoil. It's a standard for Matt Murdock. He's for going back on the promise to Foggy, and like I was again, it's not explicitly stated, but reading between the lines, it really does feel like since his visit with the Punisher, Matt's kind of refocused. He's inched back towards like an argument to put the mask back on so we can save all. I've kind of distilled it down to this silly way of putting it. He wants to save all the Foggies, save all the little Foggies.
Yes.
He wants to save all the little Foggies, Tiki.
I mean, yeah, and I do love how his arc in this episode is basically like going from essentially like, I am not going to put on the mask in the name of my friend who died, to I am going to put on the mask for that exact same friend. Like, I love that kind of transition point.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I love that he's kind of refocused it to, I've not put on the mask to honor what my friend wanted for me. By the same token, though, I can't let good people like Foggy, continue to die because of my inaction. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Frank kind of opened his eyes to that, and then he's, through kind of like, again, Yusuf Khan, by the way, wonderful cameo, wonderful guest spot last episode.
That was an awesome, like, that his role in that episode is the main thing that kind of like made it feel not like a bottle episode, but more like a Marvel one shot,
Yeah, and again, look, I mean, might be me just kind of adding what I want the show to be in here, but again, I still like to think that again, Yusuf Khan is very much the jumpstart for like he's the Foggy Nelsons that of the world that Matt still needs to protect.
Sure,
it's like a really sweet side character that we all love. And we don't want anything bad to happen to him, like what happened to Foggy. So we are compelled to save him, and all the other great side characters, hopefully.
And again, I must point out how much I loved Matt just casually strolling into the bank robbery with the whole like. Look, don't look at me. I'm not doing anything suspicious. Whistle. That gave me a lot of joy, Dragon. It gave me a lot of joy.
One of these days, I should show you the clip. There was this old W.C. Fields short, where essentially W.C. Fields runs like an old-timey drugstore, all right? And there's this blind man who constantly comes, Mr. Muckle the blind man. And the gag is like this guy just, again, no fault of his own, it's the humor of W.C. Fields. The guy just is like a tornado of mess when the guy comes in. As in, like, he enters the, it's Mr. Muckle, the blind man. He tells the little clerk to open the door quickly because Miss Muckle is just going to break the glass with his cane. He breaks the glass, and he's feeling what he thinks are apples, but they're light bulbs, and he just keeps dropping them on the floor.
That would be fun if Matt just like played up the fact that he was blind and was like stumbling around in front of the robbers.
That's the thing. So it kind of gave me some like a more serious Mr. Muckle vibes.
Right. Anyways.
Anyway, so that's the thing. So again, Matt knows that he's inching towards putting the suit back on again. That's why he's kind of back to prayer.
I mean, he's been in that headspace, like you said, basically since he had the conversation with Frank back in episode 4.
And my takeaway from that episode to this episode is, I feel Matt. What we're kind of ultimately saying between Matt and Fisk with our parallels here is that Matt is trying to control, the violent nature, as Wilson Fisk put it in episode 1. He's trying to, like episode 5, we saw him using it in a very controlled way, and I think that's ultimately what his goal is going to be, approaching Daredevil going forward after his, the scare to his own moral code of like throwing Bullseye off the roof. It's going to be he needs that violence to be effective at what he does, but.
I think Bullseye is almost, you could make kind of like the invincible argument with Bullseye of like, You know, some people are just too far gone and they just need to be stopped.
And
I kind of
again,
feel like that's the Bullseye situation.
it will be interesting to see where we go with that because again, Daredevil historically, I mean, between the Affleck movie and times, because again, in the comics,
I honestly
he
think the only character that you can get away with like having that firm no kill thing is Batman, honestly.
true.
Just because
No,
it's so baked into the DNA of this character.
I mean, Superman probably as well, but
Yeah.
as I'm saying, I don't know, can't like Batman. Yes, firmly, like he's the one literally having to say, he doesn't kill. Superman, it's more of just like assumed. Okay, Superman, Superman doesn't have to kill. He has all the powers. He really can do anything unless it's Zod, with heat vision. He doesn't have to kill anyone. you know.
And I have a
Anyway,
lot of problems with Zack Snyder's Superman. Him killing Zod honestly wasn't one of
again,
them.
not that. That's you're right. That's not the problem. The problem is we put something interesting on the table and then it spoils because we don't do
Exactly.
anything with it
Yeah,
in
yeah.
BVS. So it's so weird that not necessarily the problem, but it's contingent on BVS being good, which sadly.
Right.
Anyway,
Anyways.
okay. My point being, I think the parallel that we're establishing here is that Fisk is just letting out the violent nature. He's incorporating it into his life without having to like limit it. He's just working it to his advantage. Matt, on the other hand, he's kind of doing a similar thing, but he's using it in a more controlled way. He's like turning off the release valve, like when he's like taking out these masked robbers.
Mhm.
Last episode, and here I think we're going to see him struggle with that, but I think his end goal is to be like he was in episode 5. I think it's to basically be able to release it, but in a very controlled way. But you're right, though. Again, look, in the comics, he did throw Bullseye off a roof, and basically that was what the cause of Bullseye's back injury was in the comic versus the end of Daredevil season 3. So I mean, he's lucked out with that occasionally, but like look at the Affleck Daredevil. He kills a guy at the start of that movie. He says, "You know what that is? That's the C train." He killed that guy. He essentially killed that. He let him die, but he very deliberately let him die. Though it's not like a whole like I'm not going to kill you, I don't have to save you thing. That's more of like literally like, hey, he very easily could have saved that guy.
Right. Yeah.
He chose not to because he was a rapist that we sadly named after a comic creator, but that was an inside joke.
Oh man.
Anyway, so Heather. So Heather, she looking at her here, I think she provides a comfort to him. But her curiosity in Vigilante, for the book that she's writing, Vigilantes for the book that she's writing, I think it troubles him.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm still not like sold on this relationship, as you could probably guess.
By the way, I re-looked at that episode. By the way, she was just staying. She visits a lot. She stays over a lot. She's not moved in with them.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I just think like basically with their relationship, we get like the first date to establish their chemistry, and then she's just kind of like there. Like
Yeah.
I'm just not getting. She's the character in the show that I'm not getting a lot from. We didn't really see her in therapy all that much this week. We saw her a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, especially with her dynamic with Matt, to me, it just feels very blatantly like, okay, we got to recapture that sort of like, you know, we gotta have Matt have a love interest. Like she feels like an obligatory love interest. And as you know, Dragon, I'm not like
Basically,
about that trope.
It sounds like you're operating more like, oh man, why couldn't he just have like a one night stand with the Latvian, like not I want to say plea out lady, but the Latvian ADA, I guess.
I mean, truthfully, that's more in line with like the Matt Murdock from the comics, from what I understand.
Yeah.
He's basically like a playboy, right?
I mean, pretty much. To be fair, we have established that in the show as well. It's just more of like like we show that he hits it off
like
of
we
women.
established that more in She-Hulk than we did in this show.
No. I'm saying that we see it in action in She-Hulk. I'm saying it's always been assumed and like hinted at in the show. For example, episode 1, it's like we have the gag between him and Foggy. How do you always know how hot the women are? Essentially, like he's always like like the realtor that's showing him around the place. Like right off the bat, we see him put the charm on the ladies. Anyway.
So I don't know, man. It's not even that this character like has nothing going for her. It's just I do not get anything out of her dynamic with Matt. maybe this whole her looking into vigilantes thing is going to result in something interesting, but as it stands now, it kind of just feels like forced tension just to make her somewhat interesting with the Matt dynamic. I don't know. I'm not.
Okay, well, just two things about Heather in relation to Matt here. Okay, one, I predict next episode is going to be the big Heather episode. It's going to make or break her. That one's going to be the one that's either going to like, okay, we have something we can do with her. It probably ties into the Muse plot, I'd imagine. Otherwise, we're just kind of stuck with her.
Yeah.
Secondly, the big takeaway with her here, the reason I bring her up, honestly, in relation to Matt's arc, is she does pose the interesting question that again is the whole violent nature thing, where she basically makes the point about she questions like if mask, are allow us to be our true selves, or if they allow us to act like animals, which again is puts into play the whole Kingpin. The thing about the opening, because we have this going on, and then we kind of go to Fisk and Vanessa, so we're very much kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of this nice kind of like real intimate conversation that we're having here that kind of hint at the nature of the men in question, who are then going to be paralleled very strongly later in the episode. I mean, yeah, I think the edit on this episode was pretty strong because we're going out of sequence on the Vanessa Kingpin stuff, which I really liked.
I think the cross-cutting, your blinding moment, essentially, I think was really strong editing.
Yeah.
The Vanessa Kingpin stuff, we'll get there when we get there. I think in theory it works better than it was executed. For me, it was a little bit jumbled, but we'll get there when we get there.
Right. Well, regardless, so again, the whole Kingpin's point about reconciling with a violent nature. It's again, later on we see Matt, he's beating up Muse with a smile on his face, with the devilish smile on his face. And again, this is kind of getting back to way early on in season 1, like season 1 episode, I'll say season 1 episode 2, I guess. The thing with Claire, where he basically, he's on the rooftop interrogating the thug to find the kid, and he says, I'm doing this, I'm hurting you because I enjoy it.
Right.
Which again is like, there's some truth in that, where again, there is it's the whole retribution in him. I believe in retribution. That's essentially what we're seeing here, where vigilantism is an addiction, an outlet for all the turmoil in his life. And again, his goal this season, I'm hoping, is, I'm prognosticating here, is that it's the balance of justifying vigilante actions by saving people versus the retribution, the outlet for his anger, which again is what he fears it is ultimately, that it's going to swallow him up and kind of make him really the devil versus like this, kind of the savior complex.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, by the end of the episode, we have that moment where he's really going at it with Muse, and he snaps himself out of the retribution to save Angela, and I think that's important. I think that's kind of the important moment and the distinction.
That was a really, really good moment for sure. You kind of knew that he was going to save Angela,
yeah.
but it was still a good kind of like, okay, he's in that position now. Like he could go full, just sadistic, or he could like kind of reclaim a little bit of humanity, even if it means that Muse is going to get away.
Oh yeah. But again, I love that even in this moment that we're kind of seeing here, that's kind of him kind of enjoying this a little too much.
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
Where again, it's that thing where if you look at Matt kind of again as an addict with vigilantism, again, we saw every time he's kind of fallen off the wagon just in little bits, it has been brutal. I mean, again, we saw in episode 2, when he took out those cops.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an impulse for him. So again, left unchecked, because it's like binge eating or binge. It's like when someone goes on a binge after they've fallen off of a diet. It could be pretty bad.
Totally.
Okay, so Kingpin.
All right. In other words, Dragon,
Mayor Garbage, is that it? Is that your best? Mayor Garbage, is that it?
Mayor Garbage. That's just Kingpin's nickname for now on. Mayor Garbage.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know, man. The cross-cutting between the conversation with Vanessa and him actually being at the party, like, I like it in theory. I think in execution, I think it was a little too fancy. It was a little bit jumbled, but ultimately what I really like about this episode as far as Kingpin goes is the fact that very much so, and we're going to see that kind of like very much illustrated in your blinding moment, is him and Matt are very much on similar paths. Like they're on kind of like these kind of like mirrored paths where Kingpin is just looking for an excuse to become like the violent mobster that he was in the Netflix show. And I love how he takes the situation with Muse and essentially uses it and twists it to his advantage. Dragon is very much in line with current politics. Let's just say that much, but in a good way, though. Once again, I want to emphasize, like, I think that this show is maybe one of the best, like, commentaries on our current political situation.
It's distilling down the politics to, again,
without basically just going into like an orange man bad kind of like lecture. You know what I mean?
Like we're not drawing like 1-to-1 parallels, but we're using again like the systematic nature of the politics of like exactly. This is like what leads to the political situations that we're seeing now. There's a relevancy there, but it's not going to date itself because of that, which is good.
Right.
So so I thought this episode had a very strong parallel to between him and Daredevil, where they're both falling off the wagon versus as the old ways bleed into basically their old ways are bleeding into their new paths that they've carved out for themselves. And we've been building this up for a while with the end where like the rooftop and the dinner my dinner with Adam.
Oh God.
Anyway, so it's bleeding to new paths in ways that are benefiting them, and also are providing a temptation, more temptation for Matt and an advantage for Fisk. Where after the mayor, it basically feels like after Mayor Garbage. Let's play the other clip though, Tiki.
Mayor Garbage, is that it? Mayor Garbage, is that it?
There you go. Okay. Yeah, so after the Mayor Garbage thing, he's not taking it, man. He's just not, that really hurt his feelings. And so Luca shows up unscheduled, just shows up very rudely, and that's the last straw. And of course, has huge echoes of Anatoly getting his head chopped off the car door because
big time.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a huge pet peeve, and this is where that's the last straw for him, where we bring out the boss and the businessman versus the mayor, where again he adds like $1 million tax to the 1.8 that he owed. That he only gives him a week to pay it. I love that he tried taking an honest stab at it, and now I love in that rant, by the way, about Mayor Garbage, where he points out, I've made promises, simple promises.
Totally.
And he's right. These are simple promises. These are, again, his goals are nothing really is wrong with his goals. Again, Vanessa is up to no good with Red Hook, but still, that's the balance that he tried to strike, but he has to incorporate it to actually get things done, which is the other kind of political commentary, which sadly, to get things done, it seems, we're having to grease palms and just kind of bully the criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So, so his methodology is, again, helps him excel at politics, which is scary, but again, kind of accurate. So he learns of, again, basically working the Muse situation to his advantage is what I kind of predicted with the vigilantism task force thing. I kind of imagined with the anti-vigilante crusade, we would do with the murder of White Tiger, which I'm still kind of bummed that we didn't quite fold because that was like money on the table there, but I'll still take the win. The win is that we're kind of doing something like that here in another instance that also makes sense, that he would, have to respond to the situation. And he's using his methodology, the way, again, he walks in there like a crime boss to handle the situation. And again, the way he rallied, my favorite scene in this, not counting the blinding moment, is I love his get it done mentality.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
In assembling the anti-vigilante task force, where... Exactly. Just using he assembles the anti-vigilante task force, which are made up of the dirty and the rule-breaking cops. Even if they're not all dirty, they're very much the overzealous rule-breaking cops. Mm-hmm. And it's just so eerie seeing Kingpin rally.
And that is another just kind of like big political parallel where it's like, what exactly is our current president doing? But like
kind of weaponizing the police
up with like yes men who are at the very least a little bit unsavory.
So that's the thing. So he learns. Of Muse using the blood murals and everything. I love how he learns that, by the way, which we'll get to in your blinding moment.
Yes,
I'm going to table that. Originally, I wasn't, but we're going to table that for them. And it's just a brilliant move of him, just kind of using his methodology to serve the mayorship now. And again, I love it when he assembles this task force, and it's just so eerie. One, seeing him rally cops, given that we know the cops hate Fisk because he has killed cops in the show before.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so chilling seeing them rally for him in this moment, especially given that all of season 3 is built around cops against Fisk. So again, it's just so brilliant. Again, I was like glued to my screen and on the best of ways. Like this episode made me feel this is what I want to feel when I'm watching Daredevil. Scenes like this, where he's giving them all the second chance, and like he's giving them respect and a second chance, and again ignoring like their faults as police officers, because he knows, dirty as they may be, or like rule breaking as they may be,
if
they will
anything, I think their
absolutely.
faults are just like even more appealing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Like that's
And
like
again, I hate to just keep harping on this, but current political parallels,
and again
it is
he's
what it is.
and again he's seeing himself in them in terms of like there's an opportunity here to, again, like despite their ignoring their past, they can be of service to the city in a way that everyone has discounted them or putting them under a microscope or judging them. Again, he's feeling a kind of a camaraderie there. And again, he's using the advantage that no one else would accept, the system would not accept. He's using it to his advantage. To, again, he doesn't have the advantage of like employing, like the comics, which we'll get to later. The whole anti-vigilante task force that Kingpin as mayor is assembling is right from the comics. Only we had the advantage of using supervillains, which we can't do here. But this is like the next best thing.
I honestly think this works out better than if he just was like, because it's so much more realistic and it's so much more kind of like, this is what actually would happen in a situation like this.
I have no complaints about like not using supervillains. That's always the thing of, okay, very clearly evil if he's just using supervillains.
Right.
At least here, there's the eerie shades of gray and just kind of the real worldism there. But one thing, so at the end of the day, Kingpin here, and the problem we've been having with him lately is that he is very proactive here, which is very refreshing. He's taken it from the elite this episode. They're looking down, which again is the edit you're talking about. Like, here's the thing, I'm of two minds, but you're right, Tiki. On paper, this does really work, where he and Vanessa are kind of like, she's walking through how he's going to have to handle these people, and we see how he's handling these people, and I like that. I think what happens is we double back to it, and it's like that as one sequence that works, but as two sequences, then we're kind of you the audience member, the viewer is starting to wonder, wait, so what happened in sequence? So like we're missing something, Like, for example, the main thing for me is like when he rips the suit, like that's a good bit, but it feels like placing that after we've had like the sequence play out feels a little like that probably should have happened first, and then they had that talk,
And again, that almost like we're definitely getting better with the editing stuff, but I still kind of feel like occasionally we'll have stuff like that where is that edited out of, especially because the whole party scene is edited out of sequence too. That's kind of like one of the only reasons why the party scene doesn't land with me as much as it lands with you, is just the fact that it almost feels like them editing it out of sequence was like just like a necessity. If it, that's kind of the vibe I get. Does that make sense?
No, it kind of does. Well, speaking of that, I have a theory. And mind, I like how it shook out here. I can find a way to just kind of accept it as it is, but it does make me wonder. Now, when we saw Adam last, I mean, did he look beat up to you, or did he look just like okay in the cell?
I mean, I don't really think we got that good of a look at him, to tell you the truth.
So this is why I think it still works regardless, because we didn't get a good look at him. But I have a theory that perhaps in reapproaching the show, we had the better idea of like, okay, what if we suggest we build up Adam in the cage and we see the bloody knuckles, and I wonder if perhaps the first pass, this was this was what gave him the bloody knuckles. Like this might have happened earlier on, and then we would have seen like the bloody knuckles in other scenes. So I wonder if that's what happened. Then we had the better idea that kind of reconfigured to suggest, oh, what horrible things he's been doing to poor Adam, until our big axe moment, which we'll get to.
Right.
No, it's just, but again, it lends credence to the whole like it's hard to tell how the editing is kind of worked on, and salvaging and kind of like reconfiguring certain scenes, and how necessary it is. And like, for example, Rohit, has posited that we might have had a lot more Kirsten stuff that just made the cutting room floor because we didn't have room for it anymore.
Yeah, no, I kind of get that vibe as well, for sure. But again, it just kind of makes more or less all of Matt's personal life stuff kind of, I don't know. Again, that's kind of like the big drawback of the series.
Again, if we don't pay Heather off really well, it is going to be egg on their face.
Yeah. So.
All right. Okay. So last thing here, thematically.
And then, of course, I'm sure we'll break down, some specific guests that were at the party when we get to Braille Trail, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so there's, again, Kingpin, again, in kind of giving into kind of like the violent nature here. Well, we're using like violent nature like Dark Passenger, but it's just kind of fun.
I mean, that's basically what we have here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this episode really gets into possession and ownership. Where it's very much Kingpin aggressively defending what he wants, and again, this is kind of going. Well, sorry, I just realized I can just save that till later with Braille Trouble. That's the thing. He's aggressively defending what he wants, and that's why he's bringing kind of the way he used to do things into how he's doing things now. I'm sure that's going to continue on as we go forward in the season. So let's press on to Angela Del Toro.
All right. Okay, so yeah, I was dead wrong here. I totally thought that we were going to kind of like table her until a later series, but no, that's not what we're doing at all. She's quite pivotal, and Dragon, I think the first scene with her and Matt in Matt's office, I think it's a really good example of like how to write teenagers where like they are defiant, but she's not being like a brat about it. You know what I mean? Like I really do like the writing on her.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. This is not a flaw in the writing. It was just kind of like there's a character thing here where I think she should have cut Matt just a little bit more of a break of like, what do you expect him to do as presented here? I mean, he's a lawyer, as in, going off the reservation, the vigilantism and everything. I don't know if there's really a lot he could have done.
Right, but I do like that she kind of like,
I mean, here's the thing. She's ultimately right because of what
that Matt's Daredevil. Obviously,
yeah.
I do think she does have a I really do like the whole people can have like these platitudes all they want, but like at the end of the day, she's basically saying like put your money where your mouth is. Like you can say you're sorry about your situation all you want, but like what are you gonna like? I really do like her attitude about like Matt's like, look, I'm really sorry, but what do you want me to do about it? Literally anything, Mr. Murdoch. Yeah. Like I like that she's calling him on it, man. Because I do think that throughout the first half of the season, Matt has been a little bit like kind of in between in regards to like does he want to really follow through with the Daredevil stuff, or does he want to kind of sit back and let the law do the work? And I think this very much kind of gives him a definitive answer.
Yeah, so she's very much on track to become the next White Tiger, as we're kind of foreshadowing here. White Tiger was looking into the missing, the missing persons epidemic that's been going on, which basically uses victims. Angela's looking to complete Hector's last case, essentially, which is an admirable goal here. She approaches Matt, but again, because she obviously, I love this, she really can't go with the cops on this matter because the cops killed her uncle.
Yeah, for sure.
She's got a very defensive position. Like, I love that Matt is putting
just her. Like, yeah, okay, good point. I can't argue with you there.
Well, that's the thing. I love that Matt is in a position where, again, with Angela, he is now thrust into. He really has no choice but to come back as Daredevil here. Because,
basically,
again, she can't go to the cops, and I mean, again, like illegally, he can't advocate what she's doing. He can't help her from a legal standpoint. But again, she's like pretty much unknowingly asking directly for Daredevil's help, which. What's he going to say to this? Otherwise, this girl's going to get herself killed because, I mean, she's not using that charm yet.
Right. So, that's a season 2 thing, probably.
Yeah, the amulet. She's not using the amulet yet. But, so
I love how we, just casually acknowledge that the amulet exists, but it's not really playing a part yet. I like that.
Yeah, it's not in the budget for season 1.
Right. Anyways, and this kind of leads to, I love how it was kind of like a close runner-up for my blinding moment where Matt, essentially he's just pushed to the edge here. He's just like, okay, Angela's out on the street. She's missing.
Her mother's worried about her.
Fuck it. Like, I love the fuck it dragon. I really do.
Yeah.
Because it's like, after all this time, I love that is kind of like the note that we send Daredevil back on. That's very satisfying.
See, this is like taking advantage of the R rating in a fun way.
Exactly,
We can just
yeah.
have Daredevil just kind of cut through. And again, so the showrunners have said that their one critique of the original Daredevil was, I think mostly like season 2, frankly. Season 1 we did have to get it in there for season, especially we have an episode like Nelson versus Murdoch. We absolutely have to have it in there. There are a lot of like moral discussions and platitudes, and in season 2, admittedly, we do probably a lot more than we needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. We do it in 3, but again, he was going on. Again, he was dealing with his mother, and we kind of had to. There's a lot of religion in season 3. It kind of lends itself to that. But point being, a lot of conversation versus just kind of like getting right to it, which the showrunners distilling it down to an effort kind of mentality. Is like, you know what? No more debate. He's just going to put on the suit again.
Yeah, right. That's great.
It's great. Anyway, so I'd like to Matt feels. I think ultimately Matt feels guilty over no Daredevil to get justice for the victims and to stop serial killers from getting away with it. Again, presumably. This has probably been in operation since Daredevil retired. Presumably. Possibly a little longer. But I'm just saying, like, assuming there's no one to stop him, and Muse was just on to him at that point in time. It's not out of their own possibility that he's killing at least like this episode. He kills like 2 people right off the bat that we don't see with the selfie girls. So they could be killing at a rate of like getting 60 over like 2 a month at a minimum. It's
right.
Anyway. Whoops, probably more, but the point being, he's probably getting away with it scot-free. So I think there's a lot of guilt there, along with we have the smart kid who's like calling out the platitudes, and she's I think he respects it. And then we have like the credo of White Tiger here, which was the last thing he said to her, is like, don't let anyone do anything that you can do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And also, so by the end, ultimately the reason for the arc here with Angela. So by the end of things, I think be a pretty solid leap that she's grateful and also possibly inspired by Daredevil saving her.
Well, I would think so, yeah.
Between that and who her uncle was, I think she might putting on a kitty cat mask. I think she might
go full Marine Ponderosa.
Okay,
no, she's not going to do that.
Anyways. Come on, her uncle just died. Take a little respect. He was killed by cops impersonating a vigilante. Come on, a little respect.
Fair enough.
Anyway, right. Muse, not Jason Muse, the other Muse.
Okay, so Dragon, I want to kindly request that if we have more chances to get sound clips, Dragon, we need one of Kevin Smith just going, Muse! Muse!
You mean from the evening with, right?
Yes.
That one might be tricky.
If that's at all on the table,
that might be trickier to make happen, but
Muse!
We'll see.
Muse! Okay, so one thing I have to share with Muse that's just like I cannot get this out of my head. So the scene where like the 2 girls are like coming up like, oh my God, are you Muse? Can we get a photo? Dragon, I am desperate for someone to do like an audio re-edit of that thing where Muse like turns around and then we just insert like fucking J audio, like Snoochy Boochies, ladies.
Yep. Put that crap in my hand.
Oh my God.
$50, little man.
Okay, but so I like. Here's the thing with Muse. And I've been watching. My main source for recaps for this show has been Council of Geeks. So shout out to them. And I think she did make a really good point this week about Muse, where honestly, the actual character of Muse, I could take or leave until we actually learn more about him, which I assume we probably will.
I would hope so.
But what I like about Muse is that I do feel like he's a really good just plot device, just as far as through this episode, like he is the catalyst. He is the the factor that is working to get both Fisk and Matt towards their ultimate roles.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of divine intervention for getting Fisk and Matt very much on that that parallel journey until a collision occurs. He's very much like he's facilitating that. So we have this. So he's this unassuming graffiti artist, who has seemingly these random killings. Like as we see, all these two girls come up to him for selfies, and they're probably goners. Also, I mean, Angela didn't do anything wrong. I mean, she was just kind of like probably happening upon where his lair was, but. So he's not. I don't think he's really targeting. I think he's just kind of targeting victims like people who are alone and vulnerable versus like actually, like having like a type. So he signs his work.
I mean,
so I
let's
love
call
it.
a spade. He's essentially evil Banksy.
Well, yeah, you're right. He is evil Banksy, but that's the thing. He was signing his works, and people. There's a recognition there with the whole like, oh god, it's Muse against
Muse.
All right. So again, the subject matter in his art, if you look at it, it's violence and vigilantes, which again is kind of the causal relationship that Daredevil's kind of contending with within himself right now. It's all about the vigilante, all the stuff that's on Daredevil's mind. This guy's painting, which is
Sure.
going to be interesting. So I love the whole blood epoxy mix. I love what we call that. Basically, his work is permanent because of like the blood epoxy mix, which is kind of another like it's kind of a chilling, traumatizing idea.
Right.
And the fact that it's like all the victims' bloods are on that too. It's not just like he's not just using the blood. It's like literally you can kind of somewhat estimate the number of victims based on that. So it's in excess of 60
I mean,
people.
and just the fact that there's like all these different victims, like one mural isn't just one victim. It's more fucked up than that. It's it's literally like a cocktail of different victims.
It's a little like, do you remember in well, I know I'm kind of cursing myself here by saying, do you remember? But I'm just going to throw this at you. Do you remember in Scott Snyder's Batman Death of the Family? Do you remember you remember when we go into Arkham, we see like the tableau of like sewn together body parts that are like the little tapestry?
Yeah, I remember that. Sure.
Okay, so it's kind of like that, only with blood in a sense. Because it's an artwork and it's made of human remains. But yeah, and again, it's just like the number of victims and all just for in the name of art and just kind of passion, I guess. But yeah, it's really again, it is just the sheer number too, like over 60 people. It's used them for art, and again, it's kind of like it's in a demented way. It's kind of taking the opening of the original Daredevil show, and just turning it into kind of like the symbolic kind of plot point where it's like the blood mixed in with the city.
Right.
The city's in my blood, and this guy, the blood of the city is, it's basically it's on the city. It's kind of like it's the violence. It's a symbol of violence potentially. Anyway, again, there's a lot of estimation with Muse right now because we don't know anything about him, as you can probably tell. So possibly, I suspect again all of this due to the lack of Daredevil, and his disappearance is either inspired Muse to do this or basically has given Muse the freedom to be able to do all this. And the impression I get is this is the first time Muse has ever been in a fight. Had to really fight somebody and he escaped. So I think that's going to affect him. Like he's going to be really he's really caught. We see the surprise on him when Daredevil charges back in and enters. So yeah,
I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay, is that it for the arcs?
Yes, it is.
Okay, put on your sunglasses, folks, because we're getting into our blinding moments of awesome. All right, so Dragon, my moment. What?
You used the clip.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I already used it once.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I'm blind, Matt Murdock. I'm blind, Matt Murdock.
All right, there we go. Just for prosperity's sake. Okay, so my blinding moment. You have a Daredevil moment. I have a Fisk moment. Well, no, you have kind of a Daredevil Fisk combined moment.
Yeah.
So I really love the moment where we have Gallo, Mr. Blind, big bald asshole from The Leftovers, which you just pointed that out to me before we went on air. I did not recognize him with hair. So the police commissioner is basically like laying out the Muse situation to Fisk. He's laying out the serial killer thing, the dozens of victims, 60 or more. And Fisk you know, you would think that as mayor, he'd be horrified. He'd be like, oh my God, what has become of our city? But instead, Dragon, he sees it as the opportunity that he is, and he just gives, in my opinion, I think straight up the most like stereotypical maniacal laugh that Vincent D'Onofrio has ever delivered in this show so far in either version. Would you agree with that?
It's pretty good.
I mean, it's straight up just like he might as well just be doing like maniacal laugh. But again, I love the laugh itself. You know, it's classic Kingpin. But as we already kind of talked about, I love how the reason he's laughing is because he sees the opportunity. He sees like, okay, like we're going to take this thing and use it as an opportunity to, you know, basically roll out the title of the episode, The Excessive Force, which I imagine we have not seen the last of that conflict. I imagine that conflict and that, you know, the excessive force thing is just going to become a bigger issue going forward. So, yeah, I really like that catalyst. It's a great look on him. I think it's one of the most classic Kingpin performances that Vincent D'Onofrio has given so far in this reboot. Yeah, liked it a lot.
Also, I think one of the best things he has in there is when he's pointing out that a sanitation worker, you know, like figured out they had a serial killer.
Right,
and, like,
yeah.
we were basically sleeping on this the whole time.
Mm.
So that's what really makes him laugh. Just the joke of the NYPD and that too. Just like basically, it's kind of like that moment. It's like the moment for Spider-Man 2 when like the garbage man, you know, like finds Spider-Man's costume in the dumpster. It's essentially what it's kind of what the equivalent. That's the first thing I was thinking of during this, like a sanitation worker brought this to my attention. Okay, so my blinding moment. Here's the thing: if I had to isolate the specific moment, it would have been Kingpin and Adam. But I mean, ultimately, I really do love the editing. I'm a sucker for the parallels between Daredevil and Fisk, and this is too brilliant not to cite. The climax of the episode where we cross cut between Daredevil versus Muse and Kingpin versus Adam, and it's just basically the best way I can characterize is basically our two lead characters falling off the wagon simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
That's in a really artful, well-edited way. That's my blinding moment. So I'm obsessed with the parallel between them, and this episode hits that well. And again, we've been getting away from that a bit, and we hit it really hard here in the edit, and we pay it off tremendously. Kingpin, he's again presumably been beating up Adam on the regular here, and now he's kind of like in relating it to to kind of his origin. The whole like basically killing his father with the hammer. It's like he's giving Adam a fair shake here. You know, he's again not killing him, but again he's going to beat him up with a flare here. He's going to even give him the great equalizer, which is an axe. He gives him an axe,
right?
Which I'm convinced still when he goes down those stairs with that axe, it's a bit of a nod, not a direct nod. I think it feels a lot like one of D'Onofrio's big scenes from Full Metal Jacket. I'm convinced.
Yeah, I could see that.
Feels like the maniacal shotgun scene. It's kind of
right.
Like it shows up there. Anyway, so Kingpin here's the thing. Ultimately, this fight scene I really like about it is that I feel Kingpin would eats him up to a degree. And I think ultimately the reason for the edit and the reason for the cross, I think the reason this scene works so well is that ultimately, while still separated, the whole season is these two characters desperate to be locked in combat. Again, Kingpin looking for a challenge to some degree, and the fact that Adam has, in a sense, bested him more than Daredevil ever could, in the sense that he's been with Vanessa and his wife, he stole the love of his life.
Mm-hmm.
That gets under his skin so much, and the fact that he knows that he can't honestly, go toe to toe with this guy because he'll squash him like a grape every time.
I'll squash you like a bug. I don't know where that came from, but I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, I think on some level,
squish, Adam.
I think on some level he's just wishing that this was Daredevil, and that's why he gives him the axe.
Right,
that's what it feels. Yeah. He's looking for a worthy opponent. Again, like in the grand scheme of the show, we're going to build to them being reunited again, like in traditionally in their traditional roles, like they're in costume roles, one could say.
Mhm.
And again, like between that and Matt Murdock's been disenfranchised by Kingpin, winning the vote. So again, they've both been affected by the paths that they've taken, within each other. No Daredevil, Kingpin. Again, it's the whole causal, like a Batman Joker, Superman Lex Luthor, if you will. They very much, they complete each other. It's like poetry; they rhyme, So in one glorious sequence, both of them fall off the wagon simultaneously. They go back. They go back on all the progress that's been kind of keeping them down this season. And just one very heroically, the other one very petty and childish, seeking revenge with. And again, I think if I had to pick one line, Tiki, honestly, from the episode, it's D'Onofrio saying, "Mine!"
Yes. I knew you were gonna latch on to that, and I
Yes.
totally agree.
And again,
totally
because mine is perfect.
Mine!
I knew it.
Right, it's so glad. It so just sums up what we've always loved about the character, right?
Yep. I forget if I called that in the early episodes. It was like he was going to have something like mine. It wasn't mine directly, but it was like, she's mine!
Oh,
Mine, Vanessa! It's kind of like the equivalent of she loves me.
A little bit. God, she loves me. Yes.
Anyway, well, we do have a Gotham character in this season,
right,
so it's
right,
kind of appropriate. Anyway, but yeah, so I just love that again. Like one very heroically, the other one is it's completely again him reverting to the petty, childish DNA of the king, because again he is that stunted child who killed his father. So ultimately, it's him going back to just kind of that where you took the whole possessive kind of aspect of the Kingpin here, which may or may not backfire in his relationship in trying to reconcile with Vanessa this season.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like the link of them, recognize, kind of reconciling the violent nature within them. Matt is hanging Muse, and again, there's that question: is he going to go too far, like Kingpin has kind of predicted? Also, is he giving in to Frank's advice? Maybe you should go further.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the big moment, just that satisfying, just the satisfaction of like Kingpin unleashing on Adam that I've been waiting for the whole season. I was convinced that he's beating up Adam on the reg, and even if he wasn't, assumably he was, and this was just like him evening the odds for a change. And it also kind of, what I like to think of it too. This is me reading into it. I think him giving him that axe, a bit of a nod to the first fight he ever had with Daredevil, where again he weakened Daredevil and then fought him, and that's how he won that first time. So this is him in a sense of like, he's Adam's obviously weak and he's beat him and give him like the hair of an advantage. I don't know. That's a reach.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, so just again, just the primal slant, just the primal screams of Daredevil and Kingpin during the sequence. Like Daredevil's like yelling, like like mid fight, and then obviously Kingpin just like mine. He's like slamming him, and, like, breaking bricks with his hand and everything. And oh god, it's a glorious.
Sounds like a spoiled child in that moment.
And that's what he is, Tiki. He is a spoiled child. He got everything he wanted this season. He became mayor. He got everything he wanted, but he played with his old favorite toy.
Mm-hmm.
He got his filthy hands on. A part of me wonders if next episode he's going to chop Adam's hand. Initially, I wondered that when he had an axe, I wondered, oh my god, is he going to cut this man's hands off with that axe? Like, I'm going to let you. Vanessa would want me to let you go. But just to make sure you never touch her again.
Oh man, I can see that. Yeah,
because again, she did. We hit on the hands thing. He's still, again. Right. I'm convinced the next episode, there's a chance we might start in the parallel edit. We might pick up with them where Matt's going to be like, he's going to examine the crime scene and then help her out of there. And then on the flip side, like our cold open moment is going to be like Fist saying, okay, you've suffered enough, but before you go, and he pulls up the axe.
Oh man.
I don't know. We'll see. The point being, just easily, the moments I live for in Daredevil are just the climax of this episode, and just our Kingpin moments, and him just like sitting in satisfaction after beating this man, just wishing it were Daredevil.
All right. Okay, so Dragon, it's that time again. Let's hop on board the Braille Trail.
Braille Trail.
All right. Do you want to start with Angela?
Yeah. So Angela again on the path to be the next White Tiger. I think it's pretty firmly established.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like the fact that we do see her again so quickly and that she is like out, like she's giving Daredevil the business, she's out in the middle of the action, like Dragon, it's nice because I feel like the Marvel of like a couple years ago just very much would have done the thing where they introduce her as a character and then we're just kind of left with like, okay, like we may or may not get around to her superhero alter ego eventually, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I kind of feel like it's a good sign just in general that Marvel is kind of going to pick up the pace a little bit with calling back some of this stuff.
Definitely feels like at some point, whether it's this season or not, I can't.
Harry Styles is Thanos' brother, right?
What?
Harry Styles was Thanos' brother, right?
Well, no, that's true, but what's your point about that? Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, looking at you, like, character that we established, but we're never going to do anything with.
Oh, right, gotcha. Yeah, but I think here's the thing. I doubt it's gonna be this season because we don't even have a costume for it. Well, we have the costume for it, but she hasn't put on the costume yet. It has probably to be fitted and everything. The point being, next season we put her in a costume.
I'm fully on board with her being in the costume in season 2. I don't need to see it this season, but I think we're definitely doing the legwork to establish her, which is great.
Yeah, I think Daredevil's going to mentor her in season 2.
It could very well be like a Hawkeye situation for sure in that season.
Yep. All right, let's see. So,
you want to go there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Dragon, we got a Better Call Saul alum back again.
Yes, we did.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so cool to see Lalo back in the action.
Wonderful Tony Dalton, who, of course, was in Hawkeye, which brought back the Kingpin for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like how we set him up initially in the BB report, which I gotta say, I think that's kind of like gradually sort of improving. At least we're not getting like the same 4 people being interviewed.
Yeah, this episode we actually had new people, Tiki. New people in the BB report.
New talking heads. Oh my God, it can be done.
So we saw a little bit of the tease of the costume, him as the swordsman.
Yeah, which is cool. I really honestly hope that we see him in action at some point in the season. I think we probably will.
It feels like season 2 is when we're going to do that. It feels like season 2.
I mean, he did have a confrontation with Fisk, though. Like, he pretty much directly threatens Fisk, you know?
No, you're right. He does. I'm just saying that, again, if the reports are to be believed, in season 2, once we're able to introduce everyone else, it feels like it's going to be the Vigilantes going up against Kingpin. Like, we're going to set up the task force.
Look, I'm just saying never say never in regards to season 1. I think he's firmly established in this episode, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him in season 1, but we'll see.
So I love that his whole thing, by the way, is he's a vigilante, not out of being not a heroic vigilante.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Not a heroic vigilante per se, but he's like it's at a leisure and sport. That's the fun thing about it.
It's great. It's almost like Bruce Wayne if Bruce Wayne didn't have like some big like mission. You know what I mean?
Well, essentially, it's kind of
just a vigilante for the fun of it.
Well, it's kind of like Green Arrow before the boat. Kind of was
a little bit, yeah.
Before they added like the whole like he was stranded on an island and everything.
Well,
I guess technically that was always there. I think in the original comics he was a lot lighter. Oh yeah, I was just stranded on an island. I learned how to use a bow and arrow versus like I was tortured on an island for 5 years. Sure. All right, but yeah. So also again, history with the Kingpin. Where he Kingpin set him up. Framed him for a crime. So there are a lot of hard feelings there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So the Muse selfie bit directly from the comics. So that, however, in the comic that he did take the selfie. Like he took the selfie and yep.
No, I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah, so he took the selfie and then presumably, he absconded with the girls and did whatever he did with them. I like that bit in the comic a little bit more than what we did here, but there's like it made more sense. It would have felt really awful. Like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take a selfie. It would have felt.
Yeah, I'm glad they cut away.
Yeah. I think honestly, I kind of wish they cut a little earlier though. Like, can we just see him instead of like him lunging at him? I don't think we needed the lunge.
Nah, we didn't really.
Okay, let's see.
I don't think it like hurts the episode at all.
No. So Cherry, he's trying to talk Matt off the vigilante ledge.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little cherry on top of this episode.
Yes, indeed. I don't think he's going to be very successful at that, obviously, but he's given it his best attempt.
Yep. Let's see. So we referenced the trial of Frank Castle when Heather's talking about interviews.
Mm-hmm. We do, yeah.
Yep. The murals again. We bring back the murals, and I love that Kingpin's. He kind of, I think he kind of likes his mural.
I think he does. I really that it's funny. I really do think that he's got sort of an ego about it. Like, yeah, like this is how I view myself.
Yeah, but it's interesting though. He likes that one. I'm sure he doesn't like the one where it's basically Kingpin kissing the bull.
Right.
I'm sure he's going to have some feelings on that one. I still wonder if that one. I assume
that one.
I assume that one was Muse, but do you remember if it's on the side of a wall or a building? Because if it's on a building, I don't know if Muse could actually do that.
I don't I want to say it was a building, but I don't remember.
I think it's like a weird scaling thing. I'm going to give you like a weird, obscure, like weird building aphasia thing I have. Okay.
Okay.
In Seinfeld, it's also set in New York, so just gonna throw it out there.
Totally
In Seinfeld,
you might as well be in the same universe.
Okay, well, we have we do have Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the MCU.
What if it's just revealed that character just is Elaine?
God. Okay, anyway, so in all serious, I guess what I'm getting at is like every time we did the establishing shots to Elaine's workplace, the J. Peterman catalog in Seinfeld, it's like this. It's the weirdest thing I've always had. Where every time we see the front of that building, it's basically the way it is. It actually is. It's a shot. If you were on the ground looking up, that's what the shot is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way it looks to me, the viewer, is that it looks like a walkway. Like you could in walking up the building, it looks like that's it's like a pathway to the front of a building.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I feel like that's a little bit of a nitpick. But yeah,
no, I'm just saying, like it's like a weird hang about with Seinfeld. Every time I look, it's like a thing in the back of my head, like man, it throws you. It's like an optical illusion of sorts, It's just like anyway,
almost kind of like a forced perspective kind of thing.
That's what I mean. It's like an odd forced perspective thing where it looks like you walk like a walkway before it's like a looking up shot.
Dragon, do you know what this means?
What?
It means I have just found a chance to talk about Epic Universe. All right, so one of the main things I'm excited about Epic Universe when you bring up forced perspective?
Everything.
Apparently, forced perspective just straight up doesn't exist in Epic Universe. Like, apparently everything is just made to be huge, and it is huge. So, for example, they have like the Harry Potter Paris area. All those buildings, they are not forced perspective. They are built 1-to-1 per scale on how you would see them in Paris. Dracula's castle, actually the size of a castle. Like, I'm so excited. Anyway,
let's see. Okay, so we had a character setup in this episode, actually. Now, in the comics, he had not a huge role, but he had a role that had a payoff, had an arc and a payoff. So one of the members of the anti-vigilante task force, not Pal. We've already, Pal's basically our main dirty cop, but not him. Cole North, the one that Kingpin singles out, the one the Chicago cop. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
So Cole North. Now again, I'm. If memory serves, so Cole North, I want to say, was introduced during the Mayor Fisk era of the comics, which we're still technically in, which just shows you how timely this whole Mayor Kingpin thing is. Basically, he was like a character that was like on Fisk's, he's one of Fisk's guys, and then he basically had this. Fisk sent sicking the cops on vigilantes, which he's kind of essentially doing here. Only he kind of comes to regret it, and he basically has an arc where he kind of shakes Fisk's control, and he's helping out Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how far we go with that. It could just be like just a name drop, like, hey, he's from that era of Mayor Fisk, so we just threw him in there.
Kind of like how we got an Officer Morales.
Yeah, so we'll see. Let's see. So speaking of as I said before, so the Anti-Vigilante Task Force. This is specifically from one of the best parts of the Mayor Fisk thing, Devil's Reign. Devil's Reign is basically what season 2 is. Everyone's predicting season 2 is going to be. Where Devil's Reign is basically Luke Cage running for mayor against the Kingpin.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Which again, there's a precedent.
If it's the Luke Cage that we left off on
at
the end of season 2, where he's basically like mobster Luke Cage.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of intrigue there. So regardless, I'm just saying in the comic, it's Luke Cage running for mayor, and it basically ends up being like the vigilantes kind of fighting Kingpin's anti-vigilante task force, which is made up of supervillains given special privileges. So again, not one for one, but again, a bit of a nod to that perhaps, and maybe a hint of where we're going.
Mhm.
Okay, so the color theory, as per usual, I love when Daredevil has his big re-entrance, and we have this excellent thing where one of the money shots, Muse is he's here's like the rattle of the subway car, and we see like the red light, and Daredevil. If you squint, you can see Daredevil running through the red light and just doing the awesome like the propelled grapple punch.
Yeah. It's a hell of an entrance for sure.
God, and again using that red lighting.
Hmm.
Okay, so again, Kingpin having his the whole mine thing, but in addition to just him like screaming mine and he his big rallying, we have a couple callbacks to season 1 Daredevil here. It's kind of like there's the scene he has him recruiting the anti-vigilante task force. It feels a little bit like the whole you took it away from me.
Sure.
They took this away from you. Basically, he's rallying the troops with the whole they took this city away from you. It's time we take it back, kind of a thing. Which is the big like he and Daredevil in the alley at the end of season 1. And as I mentioned before, Kingpin referencing kind of the origin with his father, where the whole a simple tool can be the great equalizer. So like giving him the axe, kind of like how he, as a boy, he used a hammer to beat the guys twice his size.
Yep.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. All right. Any final thoughts on the episode?
Well, we don't do that here, but we liked it. It's great.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm used to doing final thoughts on pretty much everything.
Yeah. You vetoed that one, buddy.
All right. Well, my mistake then.
Yeah,
okay.
That was your mistake.
Yes. Call back. All right. Well, that's all for now, folks. Thanks for joining us. That's all for now until our next daring installment of Discerning Daredevil, Born Again. You know what my favorite movie is, Dragon?
Mine!
Finding Nemo, because all the birds say mine, mine, mine.